2 days ago, producing 100 megawatts of power, should urgently and expeditiously go into construction by August 2025, next month. And that the president directed that phase 2, which also is earmarked to produce another 100 megawatts, should be done under less than 10 months, because phase 1 was done within 10 months construction periods. It is the view of the president that if phase 1 could be done in 10 months, now that there is capacity inherent and that certain logistics are already in place, phase 2 must come on stream right under 10 months to begin to react in a more meaningful way to the electricity deficit, which currently stands at 590 megawatts. The nation may also know that presently Mamba Collieries, which produces 300 megawatts, has switched off 150 megawatts for routine maintenance, and therefore they are producing only half their capacity. And the reason why the nation has not seen a drastic reduction in power supply is because Chisamba Mini Solar Grid, which is a project run by ZESCO, has come on stream. And therefore it is expected that once Mamba Collieries switch back the 150 megawatts, which has now been turned off, there could be a slight improvement in the access by citizens to power. I must also here indicate that when it relates to power being exported to the region, the government through this has clawed back most of the power, leaving only a meager 190 megawatts being exported to the region through agreements contracted under the Southern Africa Power Pool, which contractually mandates all countries in the SADC region to export power to one another as a way of mitigating and responding to imminent climate change challenges. We therefore have to reiterate this point to our citizens, that the power being exported is solely for purposes of meeting contractual obligations, that if we had to claw back all the power and export zero, the amount of money that ZESCO would be made to pay for breach of such contract is far much more money than the value of the electricity being exported presently. Secondly, by maintenance of this agreement, by not breaching this agreement to export power, the country is importing power at a price less than the price we are exporting power. So it makes economic sense even. But this is something which is very important for our citizens to understand, because we do have out there a proliferation of political busybodies who have specialized in becoming commentators at almost everything, even including aspects for which they enjoy total innocence. They would want to lead the way to explain those issues. We've also seen a spiraling of propaganda around the issue of power. We have seen today one of the social media platforms which is run by my friend, fugitive Manuel Man, which is saying that the Zimbabwe Power Corporation has said they will reduce load shedding from 3 hours only, and there will be power for 21 hours. The production of power, and further they have alleged that this is because of rising water levels in the Kariba Dam. We would like to indicate very categorically here that power generation by both ZESCO and Zimbabwe Power Corporation is run by the Zambezi Zambezi River Water, Zambezi River Authority, which regulates the apportionment of the water to be utilized, and that such apportionment is equal. Therefore, if the Zimbabwe Power Corporation is announcing to its citizens that they will now reduce load shedding to only 3 hours, clearly it is not because they will produce more power from Kariba Dam. Maybe they are producing power elsewhere. The same way the president this morning has stated that in the next 3 years, Zambia will become power sufficient and energy sufficient and energy secure with or without rain. The same way Chisamba mini grid was brought on stream. It means that our power production as a country has gone up, but it will not affect the power production for Zimbabwe because this is in country and we are not sharing it with Zimbabwe. So if we are going to reduce load shedding hours, then no one should mislead citizens of Zimbabwe that Zambia has increased power production. Why are you in Zimbabwe being subjected to more hours of load shedding? We think that this kind of misinformation is treacherous in nature. At the same meeting of cabinet, the president reiterated his directive that in view of the supplementary budget that was to be presented to Parliament and was presented later on in the day in Parliament, all spending agencies, particularly ministries, should ensure they cut down on unnecessary expenses, especially when it comes to travels. Given technological advancements that sometimes you are able to hold conferencing using Zoom or virtual conferencing and other means. So the general guidance and directive by the president was that all ministries should look at their expenditure patterns and weed out all those areas which can be done away with given the current situation of the country. Let me now talk about politics. Impeachment of the president. We have heard some quarters of our society, particularly the opposition, and I have in mind Citizens First President, Harry Kalaba, who 2 days ago or a day ago called on President Hakainde Hichilema to resign or consider resignation or risk facing impeachment for a purported violation of the Republican Constitution of the court's decision a few days ago, which sought to and did advise the government to consider wider and broader participation of citizens and stakeholders in coming up with a new act of parliament through Bill 7. We want the nation to know that those calls are veiled, misplaced, and of no material substance whatsoever. They are simply made to create political visibility because they are not practicable. As a matter of reality and fact, in terms of Article 108 of the Republican Constitution, for an impeachment motion to be entertained on the floor of the House, the mover of the motion must demonstrate that the head of state has violated the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia or a written law. This far, relating to Bill 7, there is no known article in the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia that anyone, not even the courts of law in their judgment, has pointed to that the President of the Republic of Zambia has violated. We take the judgment of the court, which was made after the fact that the National Assembly, in terms of Standing Order 121.1, had already, through the Minister of Justice, withdrawn Bill 7. That, therefore, the judgment of the court, which came later on in the day, sought to address a matter which had already been addressed. And therefore, they were pushing an open door. In real terms, that judgment was merely guiding and not instructive in nature. And there is nowhere in that judgment where the courts have cited the executive for breaching any article. To an extent, one can begin to formulate and entertain an idea to impeach the president. So, the Constitution has not been violated. Any written law has not been violated, and any written law include precedents or judgments that the courts have made for which the material facts in issue are on all fours, or they are the same or similar. There is nothing to that effect. And therefore, we take these calls for impeachment as a political stunt which is well calculated to drive away national attention from the gains that the New Dawn administration of President Hakainde Hichilema has made, particularly relating to inflation going down from May at 15.3% to June at 14%, 0.1%, more than 1 percentage point jump in terms of economic value. That is enormous. And major stakeholders such as the Economic Association of Zambia, JCTR, including international agencies, have looked at Zambia's performance favorably. And we know that this is hurting some political players who for quite some time now have been clinging on a chorus of high cost of living. The cost of living, as evidenced by the JCTR report, monthly in the last about 4 to 5 months, has been going down. The kwacha has improved from about 28 kwacha, where it was 29, now to about 24 kwacha. And this is no magic. These are some of the benefits of the steady application of progressive economic policies of President Hakainde Hichilema, his administration, particularly in the mining and agricultural sectors. The production of copper, which has seen an astronomical resurgence, has now reached heights which were last reached between 2006 to 2009, arising out of favorable policies of government of that time. The economic deterioration the country has witnessed in the last decade largely has to be informed by plummeting production levels of copper. Like we have stated before, we have given projections of expected copper production rising. And also, with this bumper harvest of this year, right straight from a drought into a bumper harvest, mealie meal prices have responded by going down. Fuel prices have also gone down, and they've been going down consistently for a while. There is no magic like some people are alleging. We are not running a fictitious economy. Fuel prices have gone down because of law reform. Again, the open access regime to Tazama pipeline. These are the benefits. And when these things were announced that Cabinet has resolved now that Tazama will have an open access regime in order to encourage competition in the bringing of more fuel, these same naysayers today who are saying this is magic, we are saying no, this is wrong. They want to retrench workers of Indeni and so on. But the benefit now are translating to the consumers of the product. It is government's expectation, and Cabinet did not, and directed the Ministry of Commerce to be on the lookout and engage traders, particularly wholesalers and retailers, that with this gain in terms of reduction of fuel prices, which therefore entails reduced production cost of goods and services, that the same spiral effect should positively be reflected on the market store shelves, so that our citizens can get the benefits directly of a reduced fuel price and not just hear about it on TV that fuel has reduced, and the only direct people who benefit maybe are the users of buses and taxis. Cabinet has noted that each time there is a price increase in terms of fuel, commodity and service prices go up. But when there is a reduction, those prices remain static. we take this to be exploitative of our citizens. The business community must respond to the policies of government so that we all do come out with a win-win situation. Government only does what it does for the benefit of the ordinary citizens, to make goods and services affordable. We therefore want to urge citizens of our country that in the midst of these calls of impeachment, constitutional Bill 10 collapse, they should know that the opposition and their surrogates have run out of issues of substance to take this government to account on. We've heard calls by Law Association of Zambia that now, and others, that now that there's a deferment of Bill 7, the government should entirely withdraw Bill 7. A deferment, by its implication, does not entail total withdrawal. There is no justification whatsoever to call for a complete withdrawal of Bill number 7. This is very precedented. In fact, even in terms of the infamous Bill 10, it was withdrawn somewhere in December. I think that was 6th December 2020. And it was reintroduced to the House in February 2021. That is what a deferment implies. We want therefore to urge civil society, the church, and all well-meaning Zambian stakeholders that the President has guided a deferment of Bill number 7 in line with the consultative meeting held on 24th of June 2025, Tuesday, last week, wherein stakeholders expressed concerns that they were excluded in terms of participation, and they expressly indicated that they were not entirely opposing Bill number 7, but that they were concerned about the process and the perceived exclusive nature of consultations. So, we are calling on stakeholders to utilize this window of opportunity to come on board. Stop holding press conferences to speak through the media. Come on board and speak from within, because you are the ones whom the President has now handed this process to. Government is desirous that this process is expeditiously attended to, dispatched, so that we can possibly, at the next session of Parliament in September, reintroduce this bill, because the matters contained therein are non-contentious. But your government is cognizant of the fact that, notwithstanding the non-contentious nature of those matters, when you talk about constitutional making, it is not about how controversial a matter is. It is about citizens' participation to give unto themselves their constitution. And the members of Parliament are there to give a stamp of legal enforceability. We therefore, as government, stand resolute to ensure that this process should be inclusive, and that Bill number 7 should be, in terms of wider and broader consultation, should be dealt with as a matter of urgency, because it has some critical issues there that we believe are in national interest that they be resolved before the elections. We do not want to go to those presidential and general elections with provisions that are potentially capable of making that election uncertain, and that in the event of certain occurrences, such as withdrawal of a member or a candidate who has already filed nominations that a country is plunged into a constitutional crisis. We have got the time. We have heard some comments to say this is not the right time because we must go to elections first. But the issues we want attended to are those that must make that particular election smooth, predictable, and guarantee political stability during and after the elections. And we have also reminded the citizens that in 2016, the current constitution was amended in the year of elections. We also want to remind the citizens that the late former president, Mweetwa, created constituencies, 6 in number, without consulting anyone. Okay? By creation of districts in localities that were falling under certain constituencies, such as Lusangazi, for instance. Because before, we had 150 constituencies for elected members of parliament. But once former President Mweetwa declared, certain places as districts, it meant that you cannot have a district sit in a constituency which belongs to another district. Another constituency had invariably at law to be created by operation of law. That is why we moved from 150 constituencies now to 156. Who was consulted in Zambia to say, can we have 156 constituencies? It was by operation of law. So these arguments about consultations must be had with a sense of fairness. In 1991, President Kaunda announced that we are amending Article 4 to bring in reintroduction of multi-party democracy and also call the elections ahead of the date of elections, which was going to be about 2 years thereafter. Did we have this issue of who did you consult? We are not saying consultation is not necessary. But when you use that consultation in relation to period, advent to the general election, that type of argument loses its sort because we have precedents. And especially now that the issues we seek that they be addressed by these amendments are so crucial to ensure that the next election should not be shrouded in the abyss of mystery. Take, for instance, a petition. 30 days, 14 days petition. Those issues have to be clarified. Is it including weekends or just working days, and treat petitioners to a drama like we saw in that last election's petition? Those are the issues that need to be dealt with ahead of the elections. We think this is in national interest. It is not in the interest of President HH or the ruling party, no. And all stakeholders have now seen that some of the things they were saying were going to be part of this constitution making amendment proposals, such as extending term limit, removing running mate, and so on. They are not there. So let's deal with the facts which are on the table and make progress. Lastly, and importantly so, we would like to address the nation and update them that the processes in South Africa, that is to say, the legal process to do with the court matter in South Africa and the legal process to do with alternative dispute resolution mechanism intended to resolve the current impasse ex curia relating to the expatriation and putting to rest former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu's remains are all ongoing presently. They are both in motion. We want to indicate that from a governmental point of view, the court action was taken out as a public policy, public interest matter, which is in keeping with the People versus Secretary to the Cabinet ex parte Kaweche Kaunda case of 2021, which is a guiding law presently in Zambia as to how a former president is supposed to be buried, which is instructive in nature, that when it comes to a dispute of that nature, public interest overrides family or individual interest. That is the law presently in effect in Zambia. And it is pursuant to that law that the Attorney General instructed his lawyers, or their chambers lawyers, in South Africa to commence legal proceedings. And for those who are talking about breach of a constitution or any other law, if the president failed to uphold this judgment, which is law, that is one of the breaches one can cite for impeachment. So the president is on terra firma at law. He is on firm ground, and his government. In the commencement of that lawsuit, it was not malicious. It was not intended to blackmail the family, so that with this law or case in court, can we now sit and resolve out of court? That's not the intention. Government has always been desirous that this particular matter or impasse be resolved amicably as a Zambian family. And you have also seen that once that matter was commenced and the processes of putting to rest the remains were halted, the South African government, to whom Zambia owes a great debt of gratitude for all they have done, from medicals to where we are now, came out in the open to urge the Zambian government and the Lungu family to take advantage of this window where the court will have its return date on 4th of August, that before the 4th of August, wherein the matter is expected to be heard in court, that the two parties should resolve this matter amicably. And this is the African way of resolving matters, because we are cognizant of the fact that the court may actually hand out a judgment which may not actually be in the interest of the majority of Zambian citizens who would like to see their former president be buried in line with the 5 other former presidents at the presidential burial site, which is a significant national monument, or now museum, which signifies national identity and unity of us as a people under one Zambia, one nation motto. President Hakainde Hichilema does not want to be the one to go into history that he is the one who let this established practice and tradition of burying former president in one area, that he allowed that tradition to go away, thereby allowing the fragmentation of our nationally shared heritage and memory of the leadership of those who have ruled this country at that highest level. That is the reason why this that is playing out in South Africa is happening. It has nothing to do with blackmail. It is just in keeping with our traditions. So, we are also cognizant of the fact that we still have to live as one family. No matter how long that impasse stays, at some point, it will be resolved. How wonderful it would be that we look back at that impasse, which has put the nation on global spotlight, that we ourselves as citizens, as a Zambian family, resolved it, and not that a foreign court handed over directives of what we must do. That is what your government stands for, and we shall pursue that robustly and with the necessary vigor it requires. For the time being, we want to urge all our citizens, particularly those in the political realm, to exercise restraint and desist from making unpalatable commentaries relating to this impasse, because each time this plays out in the public domain, you can even create a headline. You should know that behind that headline of controversy, there is a grieving family whom you bring into immediate consideration of their emotions. Let us give them time to mourn with honor and dignity, and not always creating inflammatory headlines in order to escalate this division. Dear colleagues from the media and the citizens at large who have joined us, this is where we come to an end. Thank you so much for joining us, various television stations that have carried us live and those streaming. We, as your government, are on hand to pronounce ourselves to you all the time, so that we can account for how we are running your national affairs. Thank you so much, and unless there are questions here.
Okay, thank you. Do we have questions, colleagues? I'm sure most of you have to go and prepare for your lunchtime news.
Yes.
So those with questions, we can arrange some other time. And as for the cabinet resolutions, it's better to go to the line ministries now if you want to get more details on the resolutions that have been made by cabinet. So thank you. Please go well.
Those who want a copy.